Is a day in the life of the Disney College program really all that it's cracked up to be?
Every smile, spark of light, a tale we'll always share. Magic in the air tonight, it's everywhere.
So, what is a day in the life of the Disney College program? Well, for you, it could be very different than how it was for me. But for me, it went a little something like this. I worked a lot. Oh yeah, that's right. This is an actual job.
Get back to work!
You do work, and when you work hard. But it is a very fulfilling experience. So, what does your daily life look like? Well, if it's anything like what mine was, you're gonna live at Flamingo Crossings Village. It is a wonderful, wonderful dormitory establishment that is owned by the Walt Disney World Company, but is mainly run by the American college campus communities. Now, that being said, it is practically a resort with all of the nice amenities and everything that it offers, from complimentary gyms to pools, multiples thereof, hangout spots full of billiards, ping pong, foosball, pickleball, I'm pretty sure, maybe, I don't know. I never played pickleball. Pickleball's weird. It's just tennis, but smaller. Anyway, I'm getting off track. You're not here just to be on vacation at a practical resort. No, you're here to work because you're working for the mouse. And that means we're gonna work hard. But how do we get to work? Well, if you're like me, I didn't take advantage of, I had to use a bus. I did not have a vehicle down with me in Flamingo Crossings Village because, well, that's another story. But I didn't have a vehicle like I had originally planned. But that's okay. You don't actually need a car to travel everywhere if you're on the Disney College program. Now, if you work part-time or full-time for the mouse and you're not part of the college program, you need your own transportation because then you gotta be a real adult. But for those of us who don't want to be a fully fledged adult yet, you can take little baby steps to ensure you have some freedom, but that you can also get to and from work reliably. Well, mostly reliably anyway. And how do we do that? Well, Flamingo Crossings Village is partnered up with a company that runs charter buses to and from the Disney parks, resorts, and other stations across the Walt Disney World area, or what we call the Disney Bubble. Now, these buses only work for the Flamingo Crossings residents, which means you gotta show your key card that says, hey, I live here. I'm supposed to be here. Because you can't just have random people getting on a bus that's not actual Disney transportation. For example, I worked in Animal Kingdom. Now, the bus that took me from Flamingo Crossings Village to Animal Kingdom is the same bus that would take me whether I'm going to show up for work or if I'm just going to goof off in the park on my day off. For Animal Kingdom, and I believe as well Hollywood Studios, the same bus that takes the working cast members to and from the parks and the cast members who aren't actually working, but they're actually just going to play, it's the same bus for those two particular parks. However, for other parks, such as Magic Kingdom, there's a whole nother list of ways to get to and from the park if you want to visit as a guest. Now, if you're visiting the park to actually show up for work, then take the bus that is prescribed for you on your little timesheet. However, if you take the bus that is specifically designated for working cast members and you show up backstage where you're not supposed to be, well, that could cause all manner of problems, and frankly, I don't even know what all of them are because I didn't want to do that. I ain't trying to get fired. So, you gotta be really careful about which bus you take. Well, if you brought your car, well, you can still choose to use the bus, but why would you want to wait around for a bus all day when you can just jump in your car and run off to work and then get back in your car and run off somewhere else to go play? And, it's a lot of fun to have your own vehicle. Except for Orlando traffic, that is a thing. It's a very big thing. Traffic sucks. If you want to be brave enough and brave the streets of Disney World on your own dime, in your own car, with your own insurance, be my guest, go right ahead. I'm not going to do that. Now, once you do get to work, you are going to work. Working for the mouse is an incredible experience, but it is a real job, and it comes with real job expectations. You got to deal with your leadership, your other management, heck, and, well, your coworkers. And you're going to make friends with these coworkers, some of them more than others, but you got to get along with your coworkers and you got to actually show up to work. If you are supposed to be at work and you don't come, well, that's a problem, because it's not like anybody can just fill your shoes. You are special and you have been trained to do a specific task for the mouse, and not necessarily, you can't just swap a pair of shoes with somebody and try to be them, because you're not them and they aren't you. If you have to be at work, you got to be at work. Now, I've had other jobs and I've kind of gotten used to that, but I noticed some other fellow participants were kind of getting used to the whole, hey, this is a job. Yeah, it's very easy to think that, hey, we're at Disney World. We're working at Disney World. Well, yes, you are working at Disney World. The job comes first. Now, once you're done with the job, you're going to think, wow, I've been working all these hours and I get paid about $17 an hour. I got some money. Well, yes, but actually, maybe? No. If you do indeed live at Flamingo Crossings Village, the cool thing is that your rent for your apartment is going to be taken directly out of your Disney paycheck. Now, that is both a blessing and a curse, because while you don't necessarily have to worry about your rent coming out every month to your greedy landlord who's over there scraping mold off the ceiling tiles like in some places, of course, Flamingo Crossings Village is very well kept and is pristine, and they like to keep it that way. But that means they're going to take the rent directly out of your paycheck, so you don't even necessarily see that money, because it goes into your bank account and then straight back out to the Flamingo Crossings people. Once your rent is taken out, you also got to think about taxes, because this is America and we pay taxes, which means your take-home pay is probably going to be about 50% after your taxes and your rent is taken out. But that means that that money is your money, and you can put it to whatever obligations you want. And for me, at least, the first of those obligations was my food, because I like to eat and I would like to stay alive and keep working for the mouse. So you gotta eat. But here's the thing, when living at Flamingo Crossings Village, there is no, shall we say, dining plan or room and board plan like at your typical on-campus living at your college. Here, it's all you, which means you quickly have to learn to either buy really, really cheap takeout, or you better learn how to cook with real food. You mean I have to be an adult and cook and measure ingredients, and I have to light things on fire? Yes, you have to cook your food like an adult. Welcome to growing up. It's easier to do it here, trust me. Who knew a fire would be hot? Come on, get off there. Move it. Okay, there we go. There's a Target right down the road that you can walk to, or if you have a car or are really good friends with somebody with a car, you can drive around to any of 100 different grocery spots here in Orlando. Of course, you got to make sure you work your proper hours that you're supposed to work. Don't be calling out and trying to go to another park. That's a big no-no. But once you've worked hard, you can play hard as well, as long as you have enough money. Because let me say, you're going to eat your paycheck a lot faster than I think you will. At least I found that out the hard way. I had some pretty lean weeks in there. But once I got over the fact that, hey, maybe I shouldn't be eating my whole paycheck, well, maybe I don't need that extra Dole Whip. Well, maybe I don't need to buy another lightsaber from Doc Ondar's. Well, maybe I don't necessarily need more Loungefly backpacks. Because I tell you, if you're trying to move down and stay for about 6 months at a time, you also got to move out. And it's a lot easier to move in than it is to move out, because then you got to realize, oh no, I've accumulated all this stuff. Now what do I do? Well, that's why you got to be careful when you go shopping. Once you've thought about, I got to fill my tummy with food and I have to cook it myself because there is no dining plan, this is what we call, well, Dole Whip money. After you've taken care of your taxes, your rent, a little bit of food to survive, and whatever things you do around the apartment to kind of spiff up the place, you have maybe just a little bit of money left over for some, shall we say, fun things. Now, of course, as a Disney cast member with your little self-admission pass, as long as you're not working or supposed to be working, you can go to the parks whenever you like, within reason, for free. Now, We discussed this briefly in the last video, but now I think is a more important time to say that your working hours could range anywhere from the minimum, which is about 28 to 30 hours a week, to the maximum, depending on whether or not they allow overtime for that particular week. It could go up to as much as 45 to 48 hours a week if you're just a hustle, nose to the grindstone kind of worker. And I try to be whenever it's allowed, but sometimes they don't allow for overtime for us lowly college program participants, so you just got to be careful about where you work and how much money you're putting aside after all your necessities are taken care of. If you're getting their base minimum 30 hours a week, well, it's going to look something like 5-6 hour shifts, 5 days in a row, give or take an off day here, there, and yon. Or sometimes you work a lot of days in a row, but then you get 2-3 days off in a row after that. I think I did a stint of working 12 days in a row once, and then I had like 3 days off in a row after that. And so because of how labor works around the Disney parks, well, there's no shortage of opportunity to pick up shifts from other people, switch, trade, swap, however you want to pick up extra cash. You just got to be really careful about when and where you do it. Of course, when you live at Flamingo Crossings Village, everybody around you is also a Disney cast member and is also on their own sort of program. There's no shortage of really cool people to meet and talk to there at Flamingo Crossings. And of course, there's your coworkers. On many occasions, me and a few of my coworkers would finish up our shift at Animal Kingdom, quickly run home off the bus, change clothes, because you can't show up at a Disney park with looking like you belong at another Disney park. That's a big no-no. You can't ruin the magic. But you run home, quickly change clothes, freshen up a bit, and then you get on a different bus and you hightail it over to another park where you can get in with your little admissions pass. That's a really, really fun thing to do for you and your coworkers. It is a great bonding experience. Everybody that goes to work for the Mouse does so intentionally, so you all have at least one thing in common. We want to work here, and in order to make the best experience possible, you got to get along with your coworkers. So with all that being said, that's kind of what your daily life is going to look like as you think about the Disney College program. That's kind of how I experienced it. There's tons of other resources that you can put into your repertoire to make sure that you have the best time possible. But anyway, thank you for joining me on this little peek into the daily life of the Disney College program. I certainly hope you've enjoyed hearing about my adventures as I have enjoyed telling you about them. And of course, keep an eye on the channel for more details about how it is to be in the Disney College program. And of course, have a magical day.
Worlds collide and hearts unite with stories we all know. Every smile, a spark of light, a tale we'll always share. Magic in the air tonight, it's everywhere.